two principles I'm proposing: that US government engagement be considered in the larger context of the pandemic, and that the immediate USG focus be on how cooperation offers tangible opportunities to improve impact on people's lives, not necessarily on future abstract benefits of cooperation. Cooperation in this messy collision of fragility and pandemic is not classic cooperation. We should not be satisfied with mechanisms that are heavy on information exchange or may be weighed down with rigid structures that no longer serve us. Historically, international coordination has been framed in terms of efficiency, removing friction from implementation systems, reducing the risk of duplication or gaps in funding, and lessening the burden of external assistance on partner administrations. And in fragile situations, the kind I've worked in all of my professional life, the case for coordination is usually presented as an intensification of that same rationale. But those benefits will not be enough to prevent peace from becoming a casualty of the pandemic. So we really must think differently and embrace coordination as a chance to build common cause with a wider range of partners, to be more inclusive. So let's de-link the challenges and benefits to the US government of coordination on the frontline fight at a country level from the functions at a global level in the multilateral venues. The fraught and polarized nature of current global conversations, increasingly captured by great power politics, do not need to prevent us from finding a way to be proactive and invest in coordination in fragile and conflict settings. Imperfect global institutions are not barriers to the US government and other players benefiting by either leading or participating in coordination. The timing of the current work to define the global fragility strategy and the overwhelming urgency of pandemic response offer a chance to invest differently in coordination in fragile and conflict settings, and to potentially see more immediate returns. Coordination mechanisms can allow the USG to not only increase their line of sight about what's happening in a country, but to also influence partners and identify opportunities to form alliances for greater impact. I've got 4 recommendations that I described in my short paper. First, resist the temptation to see participation in or boycotting of coordination mechanisms as a power exercise. And don't expect homogeneity across partners in how they participate. For example, most multilaterals anchor their coordination to pooled funding mechanisms. And yet there are major bilateral development actors, including the US, Japan, and increasingly the UK, who have constraints against pooled funding. But that shouldn't stop the US from playing an important role in coordination that can prioritize shared messaging and technical innovation. It's not all about the money. Second, reframe international coordination mechanisms as opportunities to agree on common ground, send unifying messages, and pool risk for edgier actions. Effective coordination mechanisms in these settings will be lean and flexible in their ability to accommodate changing participation and frequency, and will shift almost all of the information sharing and routine communications to on-demand digital platforms. Use coordination strategically to support scenario planning, recognizing that the US interests will be well served by those kinds of strategic discussions. It's true that not all actors will be able to share 100% of their information, but a fulsome exploration of shared insights about what's going on in a country creates a better environment for risk management for everyone. Third, redefine coordination as multi-directional, with vertical and lateral lines as well as horizontal. The US government would be better served by coordination mechanisms that not only collect donor partners at a head of agency level to national authorities, but also offer ways to flow information to and from subnational authorities and communities. Think about building a web rather than a circle or a ladder. And fourth, use the dangerous convergence of pandemic threat and pre-existing fragility and conflict to elevate important topics that serve the purpose of the Global Fragility Act. I'll just flag 4 of these. 1, prioritize citizen security and violence prevention, especially for vulnerable groups. 2, select mechanisms that engage with mayors, community leaders, and other subnational authorities. 3, pursue an increased use of community-driven development as a platform for impact in fragile settings. 4th, be sure your focus invests in preventing and responding to violence against women and children. In summary, I firmly believe that international cooperation in tackling state and social fragility and violent conflict won't be the cooperation that we're used to. COVID-19 is remaking both the terrain we're working in and the institutions we're working with. It can't be the old cooperation because the opportunity costs will be astronomically higher due to the increased stress on communities and the constrained resources of states. It doesn't have to be the old style cooperation because this disruption offers us a chance to be more flexible and to wire new collective neural pathways. And it mustn't be the old style coordination because the opportunity for a multiplier effect is too valuable to pass up.